And my message to you today is don't let the 3G's distract you from the 3D's. Here's what I'm talking about. The 3G's are generous, what I call generous, glittering generalities. Let me explain. Generous in that it's usually in an abundance. Let me give you an example. I want to end world hunger. That's a very generous thing to do. That would cost a lot of time and money. That would be very generous. It's very broad, it's very big. Glittering. Like most things that glitter, they're very shallow and they look nice on the surface. And that's the key, on the surface. And then lastly is generality. So you have your generous, glittering generalities, the 3G's, or G3. Here we go, G3. And they're general because they're broad in scope, but they don't mention any of the logistics. They don't take into consideration any of the practicalities that are involved in such a statement. So I liken the 3G class of people, again, who I would refer to as the Democratic Congress, the Democratic liberal left media, who, and I'll tell you why I just consider them in a moment, and not everybody who votes Democratic. So I call those the 3G's, and I would liken that mindset, that philosophy, those way of thinking, and we all know somebody who does that, right? They walk around spouting really nice things. Oh, I just want us to all get along. Oh, let's end world hunger. Oh, Black Lives Matter. We want equality for all. Can't everybody just get along? All we want is peace. And ironically, you'll find most of the time you'll know that you're talking to one of those folks because they use the words all and just quite a bit. All I want, or even better, they'll use the phrase all I want and then fill in the blank. Or I just want world hunger to end. So, and they're also general in the sense that everybody thinks that way, and they say it in a way that gives you the impression that they think it's an original thought. We want to end all world hunger. I just want to end world hunger. All I want is to end world hunger. No kidding. We all want that. That's very general, very generic. It glitters, it's very shallow, and it's awfully generous. The ironic part about it is it's not generous with their time or money. So I liken all those people, we'll call those the 3G's, not the OGs, not to be confused with the OGs. These are the 3G's, or the G3s. I don't know, you tell me what's the best phrase. But I would liken them to the participation award segment of our society. That segment of society that thinks everybody should get an award just because they showed up. Because I think we're seeing the evidence of that mindset play out in all the Democratic cities in the United States right now that are being burned to the ground and whose windows are being broken. Now, let's set the 3Gers off to the side for a moment. We'll set them off to the left. Now let's talk about the 3Ds, all right, or the D3s, however you want to call it. The 3Ds refer to depth. Depth meaning root, right? You go down deep. You go to the root of the problem. You go to the source of the information. You go deep. Now, we've all dug something up in our lives, and we all know that it's hard, right? It's hard to dig out a tree trunk or a tree root. My brother and my dad just did that the other day. Fortunately, they spared me that experience. And that was very difficult. They had to dig down deep. They had to, it was very exhausting physically, and it took a long time. So the first D stands for depth. The second one stands for details. You know, saying I want to build an airplane is a great idea. Or I want to end world hunger. Or I just want everybody to get along. What's required for that to actually happen are called details. You need specifics. You need to know what to do, when to do, how to do it. And that's not easy. That also requires a great deal of thinking, which I think it was Henry Ford who once said, thinking is the most difficult work that any of us will ever do. And that's why so few of us actually engage in it. And so the third one is direction. I want to end world hunger. Well, that's going to require some direction. Just logistics alone could be overwhelming. You've got continents, countries, people, products, finance. You've got a dynamically complex amount of variables in that one statement, let's end world hunger. So let's put the 3Ds off to the right. And I'm going to call them, let's call them the, for all of those out there that can relate. I actually don't even want to relate to sports right now because of what I see going on in the NFL and the NBA, and I don't even want to give you a sports analogy now. So let's say the Nobel Peace Prize. There's a good one. We all want world peace, right? There's a 3G. The problem is, in order to get the Nobel Peace Prize, you actually have to do something. You can't just say something, you actually have to do something. And I think at the end of the day, that's really the biggest delineator that I see, is you got your 3Gs over here that are generously throwing around glittering generalities, but they don't have any personal investment. They don't have any credible contribution. And so for them, I say to you, us conservatives, to you 3Gers out there, AKA Democrats, we award you no points for that. You don't get a pat on the back. You don't get an attaboy or an attagirl. And you certainly don't get a participation award for making broad, sweeping 3G statements like that. On the other side of the aisle, the 3Ders, the Republicans, you do get credit because you've taken the time and you've invested the energy and you've dug deep to get the data. You've actually gotten the facts. You've processed it. You've actually put it through a filtering system to determine whether it was accurate or not. And there's a real easy way to do that. I did it personally, and I challenge you to do it. Watch both CNN and Fox News for 1 month straight. That's just 30 days. Then, if to the degree you can, source the same stories from an independent source, whether that be an international source, like Australia, who doesn't have a dog in this race, or C-SPAN is a great one because there's no journalism there. That's just a video camera videoing what's happening in Congress. And that you can interpret for yourself. And or watch actual presidential addresses. Take the time to watch the President of the United States of America talk to you personally and form your own opinion based on what you hear with your own 2 ears. And then go back and look at CNN, and I'm going to throw MSNBC over there too. Oh, and anybody on The View. And then over on the right-hand side, compare it to Fox News. Watch how the left, The View, MSNBC, CNN, report the same facts as Fox News does, but watch the narrative differences. And then you form your own opinion. Decide for yourself who's really reporting the correct story in the proper context with the intent that demonstrates that they want to see America succeed. I think once you've done that, once you've invested the time to do your homework and to truly evaluate for yourself what's actually happening in real life, I think you're going to find there's a lot of what I think is called virtue signaling from the 3Gers or the G3ers, where they like to look very pious and very virtuous without actually having to do anything. You'll be able to pick up on them and discern quickly who they are at a party or at a gathering, because they'll be the ones saying, all I want is I just want. And they'll be throwing around 3Gs all day. Generous, glittering generalities. You'll also be able to identify the conservatives very quickly. Well, first of all, they'll be late to the event because they'll be working. Secondly, they'll actually have common sense, and what they say will make sense with what you see in reality. And they're going to say words like, I don't know. Let's take a look at that. Let's see what the data says. Let's evaluate that. Let's consider that for a while, and let's look at this from a couple of different perspectives, and let's get some research. So that's how you'll know. So I would challenge each and every one of you. I know you're busy. I know these are scary times. I know we've all got a lot going on. All right? I would challenge you to take the responsibility that comes with being a citizen seriously and do the homework. It's hard, it's not fun, it's time consuming, but it's so worth it because the stakes are high. The stakes are higher than they've